Hello and welcome to this presentation on ensembles and uplift modeling. This presentation brings together two closely related but distinct ideas. The first half compares three ways to build classifiers from decision trees: a single tree, a bagging ensemble, and an add a boost ensemble. The second half introduces uplift modeling, a technique that goes beyond predicting who will respond to a marketing campaign and instead identifies who will respond because of the campaign. Now, both halves use the same underlying tool, the random forest and its variants, but for very different business questions. By the end of this walkthrough, you will understand the mechanics of each ensemble method, how to compare them quantitatively, and how to translate predicted probabilities into actionable uplift scores for targeted decisions. So cell 1 that we have here begins with a block of imports that brings in everything needed for this notebook. From scikit-learn, we import decision tree classifier as our base learner, then three ensemble classes: bagging classifier, add a boost classifier, and random forest classifier. We also import the standard classification metrics: accuracy score, precision score, recall, F1, the confusion matrix, and the classification report. The classification summary helper function defined next is the same one we have seen in earlier. It computes all four metrics in a single cell in single call and prints a neatly formatted confusion matrix alongside them. Having this function makes it easy to compare models with a consistent reporting format. So this is the classification summary function, helper function, and we are going to load this e-commerce data set and immediately drop customer ID and region code columns because these are identifiers. Because customer ID is a meaningless identifier, and region code, if it has too many unique values, could cause the model to overfit to geographic noise rather than learning genuine patterns. The target variable is prime subscription, a binary label indicating whether a customer has a premium subscription or prime subscription or not. The train test data split that we do here is the same which we have done earlier, where we use 60% of the data for training set and 40% for the validation set, with the random state set at 1 for reproducibility. All three models are trained on the same training split and evaluated on the same validation split, which is the only fair way to compare them. Right, so that's what we have here. Now if we go down, the first model that we have is straightforward: decision tree classifier with no depth limit and a fixed random speed. Right, so that's what we are doing here. This is our baseline. An unconstrained tree will grow until every leaf is pure, which typically means near perfect training accuracy but worse generalization to new data. So after fitting on the training set, we call classification summary over here with the validation prediction. The output will help us understand what the accuracy, precision, and recall are, and the confusion matrix also tells us how the tree classifies everything. Now the second model that we have here is the bagging. It's a bagging classifier which is wrapping the same decision tree classifier base learner. We set n estimators to 100, meaning we train 100 independent trees. Each tree is trained on a bootstrap sample, a random draw of the same size as the training set, taken with replacement. Because each bootstrap sample omits roughly 1/3 of the training records, each tree sees a slightly different version of the data and makes different errors. Now when we call predict, in this case here, the bagging classifier aggregates the 100 individual predictions by majority vote. The intuition is that random errors made by individual trees will cancel out across the ensemble, while systematic patterns that all trees agree on will be reinforced. So that's something which will also generate the classification summary results. We can look at the accuracy, precision, recall, and F1 for this model and compare it with the single tree. And the third one we are going to use here, the third model, is the AdaBoost classifier, which stands for adaptive boosting. Unlike bagging, where trees are grown independently and in parallel, boosting trains trees sequentially. Each new tree focuses specifically on the cases that the previous trees got wrong. So that's what we are going to do here. So AdaBoost accomplishes this through sample weighting. After each iteration, observations that were misclassified, they receive higher weights, and correctly classified ones receive lower weights. The next tree is then trained on a version of the data where hard cases are effectively overrepresented. The final prediction is a weighted vote of all 100 trees, with trees that achieved lower error on their weighted training sets receiving more voting power. So that's something which will give us the classification results for this third model that we have. Right, so we can run this and see how the results look like. So it's running now. So there we have it, and here are the results. So the confusion matrix, accuracy for single tree, for the bagging model, and for the adaptive boost. So these are the three models that we have here. And then we also have the precision values for the three. So we can see that the results show accuracy of bagging is the highest. We also see that the precision is highest over here, the recall is highest over here, as well as the F1 score is highest for bagging models. We also get this future warning. This is simply a scikit-learn signaling that the default algorithm will change in the future version. It doesn't affect the results, and we can move forward to take a look at some other things that we see here. It's interesting though that boosting performs slightly below bagging on this dataset, though both are outperforming the single tree on most metrics. This is not unusual. Boosting reduces bias more aggressively than bagging, but it can also increase variance. And the optimal choice depends on the data. In practice, both methods are worth trying, and hyperparameter tuning, particularly the learning rate for boosting, can shift the comparison significantly. Okay, so that's one. Now we go further and now look at uplift modeling. Right, so here it introduces a completely different use case and data set. We load customer uplift marketing CSV file. So that's a different data set that we will be looking at. That's here. So we're going to load that, but before that we are importing all those core libraries and functions that we need. The dataset we have here contains records from past marketing campaign where some customers received a promotional email and others did not. The target variable upgraded basically indicates whether a customer upgraded their account after receiving this email. So this is your outcome variable upgraded, and these are the predictors, age, and all these other factors that we have that we want to see whether they're going to use that or not. They are going to be helping with prediction or not. Now the core business question here is subtle. Ordinary classification asks who is likely to upgrade, whereas uplift modeling asks who is likely to upgrade specifically because they received the campaign. Now these are two very different questions. To see why, consider the 4 types of customers that any campaign produces. Number 1, sure things, customers who will upgrade regardless of whether they receive the campaign. Targeting them wastes marketing budget. Second could be pursuadables, who are customers who will upgrade if they receive the campaign but not otherwise. These are the prime targets because you want to persuade them. Third one are lost causes, customers who will not upgrade no matter what. Targeting them also wastes budget. And the last one are the do not disturbs, customers who would have upgraded on their own but are actually put off by receiving the campaign. Targeting them actually actively hurts the conversion. It's a standard classifier trained on response data cannot distinguish between sure things and persuadables because both groups respond positively, whereas uplift modeling estimates the causal effect of the intervention for each individual, allowing us to target only the persuadables. So the predictors that we have selected for this model are age, neighborhood demographics, etc. So we saw that here also, the neighborhood demographics, whether the customer commutes by public transit or not, whether the household is female headed or not, the account age, days, purchase propensity, email propensity, etc. Campaign email is a binary flag indicating whether the customer received the campaign email. This is the most important variable that we are interested in. This last predictor is the key that enables the counterfactual predictions we need. Right? So that's what we are doing. Now, we split the uplift data set the same way as before, 60% in the training set and 40% in the validation set. We then train a random forest classifier with 100 trees. So that's what we're doing here. On the training set, the target variable is upgraded, that we see here, those who upgraded. And all 9 predictors, including campaign email, are included as features. Now the training step here is standard. What makes this approach clever is not the model itself, but how we can use it to score new customers. Right? So we're going to just run this, which is going to use the classification summary, which we have done before, all the other things that we just talked about. And this is the partitioning of the data, training the model, random forest classifier, and this is your calculating the uplift. Right, so we'll run this. Calculating of uplift is actually the most important, conceptually important part of the cell. To compute an uplift score, we need 2 probability estimates. We need for every customer, we need 2 probability estimates: the probability of upgrading if they received the campaign, and the probability of upgrading if they did not receive the campaign. The difference between these two is the uplift. Right? So we are looking at the 2 probabilities, if they received it or not received it, and we are looking at the difference between those 2 as our uplift. So that's the difference between those 2 probabilities. So first we achieve this with a clever counterfactual trick using the campaign email feature. We make a copy of the validation feature matrix called uplift TF. That is what we did here. We then set campaign email to 1 for each row and call predict proba. This asks the trained model, given that the customer received the campaign, what is their predicted probability of upgrading. Then the result is scored in this particular variable, pred treatment. And next what we do is we set campaign email to 0 for every row in the same data frame and call predict proba again. This asks, given that this customer did not receive the campaign, what is their predicted probability of upgrading. So we call that pred control and store it there. We then build the uplift result underscore df data frame with 3 columns. Prob campaign holds the treatment probabilities. Prob no campaign holds the control probabilities, and uplift is simply prob campaign minus prob no campaign. A positive uplift means the campaign is expected to increase the probability of upgrading for this customer. A negative uplift means the campaign is predicted to have a detrimental effect. So let's run this. We can also look at the first 5 rows of the output to see the range of outcomes. So let's run this and see that. So here are the top 5 rows. Customer 9953 has an uplift of positive 0.09 because of the difference of these 2. A small but positive campaign effect. Customer 3850 has a negative uplift of minus 0.02, again suggesting that the campaign slightly hurts their conversion probability. Customer 4962 has an uplift of positive 0.14, and customer 3886 has highest uplift in this sample at positive 0.24. The last 5437 has a notably negative uplift of minus 0.18. Now this cell translates the uplift scores into a targeting list. The approach has 3 steps. First, we filter the results to keep only customers with a positive lift. Customers with 0 or negative uplift scores are either unaffected or potentially harmed by the campaign, so they should be excluded entirely. Second, we sort the remaining customers by uplift in descending order, so the most responsive persuadables appear at the top. Third, we select the top 1% of the sorted positive uplift records, and just we can print output to confirm and see who are the top 1% of these customers. These top tier customers have the high treatment probability and a much lower control probability. So if we can take a look at that, let's run this. So for example, customer 9464 has a treatment probability of 0.87 and much lower control probability of 0.21, giving an uplift that is 0.66. This customer is genuinely responsive to the intervention. By contrast, simply targeting customers with the highest predicted upgrade probability would have mixed in sure things with probabilities near 0.87 in both scenarios, which would have wasted budgets. So that's the end of the presentation. We covered two major topics in this. The ensemble method. A single decision tree is a strong baseline but suffers from high variance. Small changes in the training data can produce very different trees. What bagging does is it reduces variance by training many trees on bootstrap samples and then averaging their reports. So we did that. Adder boost, on the other hand, reduces bias by training trees sequentially, with each tree focusing on the errors of its predecessor. So we did those things here, bagging, boosting, and this is a single tree. There's no universally best ensemble method. The right choice depends on the data, the noise level, and the computational budget. So we have to adapt based on what we have in the data set. Then we looked at the uplift models. That is what we have in the second cell here, which essentially helps us answer the question, which is whether this particular customer would actually change or subscribe to what we want if we were to send them a campaign, where standard classifiers predict just response probability, not campaign causality. And that would be insufficient for targeting because sure things and persuadables look identical to a standard model. So what uplift modeling does is that it estimates the individual treatment effect, the change in conversion probability caused by the campaign for each specific customer. Now the counterfactual scoring trick, which is scoring each customer twice, once with campaign emails set to 1 and then again by setting it to 0, that we have done in this case with 1 and then setting it to 0, lets a single trained model estimate both probabilities without needing a separate randomized control group at scoring time. Now customers should be ranked by uplift, not by response probability. Only those with positive uplift are candidates for targeting, and within that group, those with the highest uplift should be prioritized. Negative uplift customers are do not disturbs. Contacting them reduces rather than increases conversion, so they should be actively excluded. So thank you for watching. I hope you found it helpful.